Let's say it's a circle that is drawn around the magus, the operator of a ceremonial or a magical ceremony, of a ceremonial magical operation, but which certainly at the same time archetypally also signifies the circle of light, the circle of consciousness that surrounds any individual. So we all have our own magic circle, and that is the circle of our consciousness. It protects us from that which is out there in the dark, outside of the circle, but in a manner of speaking, it also invites additional material so that it might enlarge, that we might have a larger circle, that we might know more, that we may see more, that we may understand more. Now, in different historical periods and different phases of the development of humanity and of the human being, this enlargement of consciousness is envisioned in various ways. Certainly, as far as our cognitive powers located in our body and employing our physical senses are concerned, there has always been a physical way of enlarging that circle. And that has become, in contemporary and modern times, to a major extent, the magic circle of science and of intellectual knowledge. So science and intellectual learning will make for a certain enlargement. But certainly that has never been all, that has never been enough. And we have also always tried to enlarge our consciousness by way of our feelings, by way of our emotions, which are very powerfully connected with other areas of cognition. And in fact, most of our ways of seeking entertainment, of getting excited, anywhere from churches to nightclubs, from prayer meetings to lap dancing, are really designed to bring about an intensification of our feeling nature so that we might enlarge somehow that circle by way of our feelings. And the same is true, of course, of the mental, of the intellectual function, the thinking function. And then, however, let's say we come to a bit of an impasse, because what do we do beyond that? These four, we know more or less how to work, how to deal with. No doubt different people are more oriented toward one or the other. That's what psychological types are all about. But we handle these four avenues of the enlargement of our consciousness. But somehow, even when we have explored with some degree of efficacy all four of these, namely the physical, the emotional, feeling, the thinking, and perhaps beyond that a sort of intuitive cognition as well, which we might throw in, that adds up to the four functions, then still there is still an unsatisfied element that remains within us. We have intimations beyond that of something else, of something greater. We feel in the more introverted and the more abstracted moments of our lives that there must yet be other realities to which we need to relate ourselves. There are yet areas of cognition that are beyond the ones that we have just mentioned. How are we going to get to these? And this is really where the, let's say, magic comes in, or has always come in. Because people have discovered that there is, and here is another word derived from this in a roundabout sort of a way, there is a capacity, a faculty, a power within us that we have come to call imagination, coming from imago, being a picture, but that again having to do with magic. Because by way of the imagination, the imaginative faculty, so people have felt since the beginning of time, we can build, as it were, a kind of a bridge from the world of the personality with its cognitive powers of sensation, of feeling, of thinking, and of intuition to something beyond the ordinarily available realms of consciousness. Now I know that in our common everyday language, in ordinary parlance, imagination is not a very greatly honored concept or term. When children or grown-up children say some things to us that appear outlandish and unrealistic and undesirable, then we say, oh, you just have too much imagination. You let your imagination run away from you, thereby indicating that imagination is something unreal, that imagination is something that is useless. This, of course, has not been the understanding of people within the magical disciplines from ancient times onwards. Yes, there certainly are ways in which the imagination can be and is being exercised, which are not very lasting and consequently not terribly useful. Some of us maybe have a more eidetic imagination, as it is often called. We can conjure up images, pictures very easily, sort of just closing our eyes, a little closed-eyed imagery, and immediately images arise. And they are not particularly intentional, they are not particularly charged with any kind of an energy, and they quickly vanish. Not much remains, they just sort of come and go. But on the other hand, there is a different kind of a use of the imagination. This is when the imagination becomes energized by intentionality, by the desire of consciousness for greater understanding, for more experience, when it is directed and channeled in certain ways. And this directing and channeling usually requires some kind of a ritual or ceremonial setting. Here again, especially coming from sort of the 19th century rationalism, rituals have a bad name. Mumbo jumbo, hocus pocus, and the various other nonsense words are used in order to convey to us the idea that ritual and ceremony are a kind of primitive activity that doesn't lead anywhere, that doesn't amount to anything. But once again, the traditions that come to us through the ages, perhaps originally from very remote times, declare that certainly a ritualized and a ceremonially employed procedure or procedures that deal with the creative imagination are the ones that allow that imagination to become purposeful, to take on the kind of power that will allow our personal consciousness to build that kind of a bridge to a greater reality into which we might extend, as it were, the magic circle of our conscious cognition. Now, maybe a number of other misconceptions need to be kept in mind. Any kind of significant, meaningful, and ultimately productive human activity has, let's say, principal intended results, has its main thrust, and then it also has byproducts, as it were, spin-off effects and products. And so magic and the magical art came to be judged by some of these